Welcome, my name is Ken Jones. This is Above Goal, 6 Excel formulas and functions for your capital campaign. We released a video recently called Common Capital Campaign Spreadsheet Mistakes, and we got a few emails asking us to dig deeper into some Excel formulas and functions. So we're going to do that here today. And on your screen right now are the topics that we're going to cover today during our session. I'm going to show you a spreadsheet. We'll talk through all of the formulas and you'll see how they might be applicable to your day-to-day campaign life. If you have questions after this video, we've set up a special email, Excel hotline at abovegoal.com. Feel free to send us a message with your Excel questions and we're happy to help. Perfect. So let's get started. So I took a second to switch over my screen, and at the bottom of this page, you'll see tabs for all the topics that we're going to cover. The first topic we'll cover is concatenate. On the sheet, you should see last name, first name, and spouse name columns. Maybe we're sending a letter or we just want the full names in one column for a report. Concatenate is what we use to bring different items in separate columns or fields together. So the first concatenate we're going to do is John Thompson. We want John Thompson to be in one field. So we're going to go equals concatenate, open parentheses, John, who's in D2, comma, space, comma, Thompson. And we have John Thompson. So let me tell you a common mistake that people make. Equals, concatenate, James, column, comma, Tillman. If you want a space between your names, you have to add that space. And you add that space with the quote and the space between the quote, okay? So we're going to drag this down. We're going to start with John Thompson. And we're going to drag this down. So the second concatenate we're going to do is a tad bit more involved, okay? We want the rest of these names here to match up with what we've done in G2, John and Lisa Thompson. So we want to concatenate all these names and add some spaces and an ampersand sign to have this result for the other names. So let's do it for James and Louise Tillman. So we start off with equals, concatenate, James, comma, space, comma, ampersand, comma, space, comma, Louise, comma, space, comma, Tillman, close parentheses. And this is complete, and I drag this down, and it's done. Let's move on. Okay, proper. So if you're a consultant, you might get data from your client and it might not be formatted in a way that you want it to be. Nonprofits, you might download data from your own database and it might not be in the format that you want it to be. So proper is a way to capitalize nouns, right? Names of people, cities, states, or really any other word that you want in the proper format. And proper format is the first letter of the word or name being capitalized. Now, you could spend a whole bunch of time going through 700 records or 7,000 records, changing the little L to a big L for Lisa and the little L to a big L for Louise. Or you could use the proper function, okay? I'm going to change these back just so we can see the work of the proper function. So to use the proper function, you're going to type in equals, proper, put the thing that you want to make proper, close parentheses, enter, okay? And we can drag that down to make it work for the other fields. If you want this to stick, you need to copy the formula, paste special, and paste as values. Transpose. So this is an example, or on your screen is an example of a campaign tracking sheet. You see there's a lot of information here. Sometimes I get a sheet like this and I want to have the names of all of the column headers. So I can transpose to create a key. So transpose, what it does is it takes your role, which may be horizontal, and when you copy and paste it using the transpose function, it makes it vertical. Similarly, if you copy fields that are vertical, they will be pasted horizontally. Okay, so let's do that one here. We're going to copy and paste all these fields here that are horizontal, and we're going to right click, paste special, hit transpose. And all of these headers were in this sheet horizontally. Now I've copied it and pasted them vertically. Okay, let's talk about text columns. This goes back to some of the same themes we covered in Concatenate and Proper. Sometimes you get data in a format that's not ideal, okay? So what's on your screen, we're in a scenario where we might want to sort by last name, and we can't do that because the full name is in one column. If you remember the common capital campaign spreadsheet mistakes video, you will know that this is a common mistake. But how do we rectify this type of mistake? And there is a solution here. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a solution to get us started, and it is the text to columns formula or function. Okay, so to use that, we're going to highlight column C, go to the Data tab, select Text to Columns. We always want to choose Delimited in this scenario. And here are some of the delimiters: tab, semicolon, comma, space, other. We're in an easy situation here. We're going to click space. Though, if you did have data that was separated by a comma or tabs, you could use some of these other delimiters to separate the data. Now, when I pick space, look at the preview of the selected data. It's pretty much going to tell me how the system is going to separate my data. Okay? I'm going to hit next, finish, and now my first names are in one column and my last name is in the second column. Now, if your data has middle names or juniors or the thirds, you might have to scroll down here and make sense of that information and manually add those back into the appropriate first name or last name column. All right. Pivot tables. All right. We can get into a lot of detail with pivot tables. I want to keep it simple today. Pivot tables are a quick way of summing up information, and I commonly use them on campaigns, to see where my prospects are in the pipeline and how much we've raised in each phase, how much each volunteer has raised. It's just a way to quickly sum up that type of information. So to do a pivot table, the first thing I need to do, and I've done this already, is select my entire spreadsheet. Okay? Once I've selected all the data, I'm going to insert the pivot table. Okay? I'm going to show you a common mistake. I've selected my table, I want it to go to a new worksheet, I press OK, and I get this error. I'm like, well, what is going on? Let me tell you what's going on. In order for the pivot table to calculate, every column must have a column header, okay? And if you quickly glance across the headers, you'll see that column K does not have a header. It's empty, okay? So if you want to do a pivot table, make sure that every column has a header. Here, we'll just add test. Now let's start all over again. So now we select the entire range. We press OK, and we have a pivot table. So let's go through a common scenario here now that we have our pivot table up and running. Now what I want to do is I want to look and I want to see how many prospects are in each phase or were in each phase for my campaign. So I'm going to scroll down and select phase or campaign phase. That's here. And here you'll see in column E, it's pulling leadership, major, and public. These are my phases. Something just happened here. My pivot table thing went away. What do I do? Just click back on this and it'll come right back up. Okay? Did that intentionally? Because these small things are the things that trip you up when you're doing pivot tables. Okay? So we have campaign phase in roles. And what we wanted to do is count how many prospects have each of these phases. So I'm going to pull campaign phase, pull it into values. There are 50 prospects in my spreadsheet, 18 are in leadership, 22 are in major, 10 are in public. Okay? Now let's do something else. Let's pull in commitment amount. This is dollar amounts, right? And right now, 15 people in the leadership phase of the campaign have given. 9 people that were in the major gift phase have given. And how much have they given? I'm going to press this little I here, and I'm in a Mac. Might look slightly different on a PC. Click Sum, and instead of showing the count, it will show me how much has been raised in each of those phases. There's a lot more you can do with pivot tables, filters, columns, roles, values. That's a video all in itself. I'll say if you have specific questions about pivot tables and it's of interest, we'll consider creating another video just focused on pivot tables. So send us your questions to excelhotline@abovegoal.com, and based on the feedback we receive, we'll design another video that explores some of the advanced functions of pivot tables. Okay? And we're going to wrap it up with Vlookups. Here's a scenario. So I have one spreadsheet here with my first names, last names, and prospects. And then I have another sheet here with the same information, but this spreadsheet has lifetime giving and number of lifetime gifts. And what I want to be able to do is look at all of this information on one sheet. Now what I could do is I could print this second sheet out and I could sort it by name, and then I can manually type all the information in for the prospects. And it would get in there eventually, but it would take me a long time to do. And what VLOOKUP does is a way to connect information from separate spreadsheets together when and only when you have a common identifier for all of your prospects. So what's the common identifier or common unique identifier in our spreadsheets? It's the donor ID. And if you watch the 6 common capital campaign spreadsheet mistakes video, you will remember that not having a common identifier is a common mistake. Don't do it. So we're going to use the donor ID to pull lifetime giving over from this sheet to this sheet. And we'll use the VLOOKUP formula to do it. Okay? So let's start. I'm going to start with equals, VLOOKUP, open parentheses, and we're going to start with donor ID because we're trying to look up this ID on the other page. Okay? Notice I put a comma after C2. So now this is a little guide you'll see here telling me what I'm supposed to do. Lookup value, table array, blah. So what is the table array? We're going to go to VLOOKUP 2, this tab down here that has our lifetime giving information. And the table array, it's just the information that we're pulling, right? We're pulling lifetime giving from this page. So the table array is that piece of data. So we're going to start, and we want to make sure we include all the data on this page, including the donor ID because it's the common identifier. And we'll grab all of this. And I'm going to do a shortcut here, shift down, And I'm going to make it absolute by adding the dollar signs. So now it says column index number. What do we enter next? This isn't exactly clear, but what it's asking us to do is, where is the information? You've given us the table array, and we know you want to pull something into column J. Where is it? What column number is it in? Okay, so let's find out what column number it is. For the purposes of our data, I'm going to scroll up here. This is column 1. This is column 2. This is column 3. If we're pulling lifetime giving, what column number are we going to pull? Column 5. Okay, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to type 5, and then we type false. Okay, now we've pulled lifetime giving from this sheet to this sheet using a VLOOKUP formula. And if we want this to drag down, we double click, and that information has made its way from this other sheet to our main sheet here. So that's VLOOKUP, and those are the 6 functions that we think will be useful for your capital campaign. If there are other Excel functions that we didn't cover, feel free to reach out to us at excelhotline@abovegoal.com. Share this with your clients, share this with your colleagues, and we look forward to creating more videos and content for you to help you run better campaigns. Thank you.